o'clock. Is all school committee members ready? You good?
We're ready.
All right. It's 6 o'clock. In response to Governor Baker's declaration of a public health emergency and the related emergency executive order dated March 12, 2020, Town of Scituate public meetings shall meet remotely until further notice. This meeting will be recorded and is being recorded and will be posted immediately or shortly after following the conclusion of this meeting. There will be two times for public comment that will be announced throughout the agenda. You can comment using the chat function when allowed, or you can email me, egates@cit.org with any questions. As a result of that, I'd like to now call the Monday, July 13th, 2020 meeting to order. First, I'd like to welcome our new superintendent, Bill Burkhead. His official first day was July 1st, but I can tell you with certainty that he was behind the scenes giving all of his efforts leading up to it, so he certainly hit the ground running. So I want to welcome Bill tonight. Look forward to working with you in the future. We just need to confirm the meeting to order via roll call vote. So we're going to go Brandolini.
Yes.
Lindblom.
Yes.
Hayes.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Gates, yes. First agenda item are the acceptance of minutes from May 4th. Any discussion or questions?
I have none.
I don't have any.
All right, is there a motion?
Make a motion that we accept the school committee meeting minutes of May 4th as presented.
Motion by Hayes,
Second.
is there a second?
Second.
Second by Long. Roll call vote, Gates, yes. Brandolini,
Yes.
Lindblom,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
All right, the minutes pass unanimously. Next item on the agenda. Mr. Burkhead's first official discussion here. He's going to provide an overview of Scituate's safe and strong return to school plan. Mr. Burkhead.
Thank you, Mr. Gates, and thank you, school committee and school community. It's been a real great first few days, I should say, maybe on my second week here. And I've been very well received, and the people here living up to every reputation that I've heard and what attracted me to the district have been very supportive, helpful, and eager to get the work done. So I really appreciate being here. And I know people are anxious and in anticipation of deciding or looking forward to what we're going to be doing here for next year in the fall. So this presentation will start hopefully answering some of those questions. We've been busy over the last couple of weeks putting this plan in motion. I want to give an overview tonight, and if I can get my presentation up, we'll start it. Okay.
Sarah, are you here?
Yeah, for those out there, if you wouldn't mind muting. Thank you.
Can you guys just let me know if the presentation is showing?
Yep.
Yep, we can see it.
Thank you. Okay.
This is the school board committee.
Yeah, if you could mute your lines, please.
So I'll start with a little background, and this information has been available pretty much in public from the Department of Education. The opening guidance from June, and just some key points, not all of the points, but a combination of mitigation strategies, a lot of which we're familiar with these days: wearing a mask, social distancing, washing your hands, or just some examples of some things that will be included in that initial guidance from the commissioner. The original plans were that masks will be required for adults and students in grades 2 through 12, and that physical distancing, a minimum of 3 feet, but recommended 6 feet. And additional guidance was
What?
expected in mid-July, which is right about our time frame
Yeah, I
now.
was just curious.
And then the final update is that we'll have to submit 3 plans, and I'll get into them in this presentation. And those are now due on July 31st.
No, Jack.
Excuse me, do you mind muting your line?
Janice, you might have to do the full mute.
Yeah, I'm gonna mute everybody.
Awesome.
Um,
Other than Bill.
yeah, Bill can unmute himself.
Okay, thank you. So this screen here just gives a little bit about, this also is, again, from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. In the blue line up here talks about upcoming DESE guidance, and there's a lot of things here. Of these things, I won't read every one, you can see them, but key policies to the academic calendar. I believe what that's referring to is the possibility of shortening the school calendar from 180 days to possibly 177, allowing 3 days of training for staff. So that's, but that's just been talked about, and no policy has been forwarded to superintendents at this point. Process for handling COVID positive cases in the school community. We have yet to receive that documentation. More detailed facilities and operations information, and prerequisites for in-person reopening. Again, we've got some of that initial guidance, but nothing since. Remote learning resources. The state is working on with some technology companies for potentially the release of an online platform that may be universally used by school districts. That's a potential. It's not a definite now, so we're hoping to find out more information, and the reason for that is to promote consistency and accessibility. Special programs and populations. We did receive last week the special education guidelines, which we'll be making available, and they're publicly available now, and we've been looking at those already. So those have been released, and we are still awaiting athletics and extracurricular and elective information, as well as transportation. And so as you see in the center document here, we're expecting this sometime any day, hopefully. Here's just this slide, a little overview of what the 3 plans and what our plan is expected to include. It does not include on the far left a full return. That's when restrictions are lifted, and in the commissioner's words, there's a cure or a vaccine for the COVID-19. In the meantime, these are the 3 we'll be responsible for. So the first one is in-person learning with new safety requirements. And you'll see down below the goal of the commissioner and Department of Education is to get as many students possibly back into schools learning safely. And I think the operative word there is obviously safely, and I would add the adults in the building as well. So getting everybody back into our schools safely. The next one is the hybrid model, which is in the event down here that they're unable to bring all the students back to school despite best efforts. And those may include partial in-school, partial out-school types of options. And the last one is remote learning, which will be a completely online version. And this is if in-person education is not due or schools are closed again. So those are the 3 plans that we have started working on and will be continuing to work on with stakeholders' involvement. So the first big part of getting the ball rolling here is establishing a very representative group of folks to be on our Safe and Strong Reopening Task Force. And we've got over 50 members, and I've just gave their general list of who's on those, who are members. And this group will be charged with the planning and coordinating the safe return of our students, faculty, and staff to school in the fall of 2020, excuse me. So it was important for us to give everybody a voice or seat at the table and have representation there. So you can see we've got, besides myself, we've got our nurse leader, central office staff, principals, parents, students, union representation from our 6 unions, early childhood coordinator, facilities representation, technology department, food service, transportation, the athletic director, several teachers, department chairs, Scituate police representation, fire representation, Board of Health representation, school counselors and psychologists, community members, and we'd like to offer this evening to have up to 2 school committee members to be part of that group. And I think we've left this out yet because we're still trying to confirm, but our school doctor would be on this committee as well. And the meeting dates are up there. They're every 2 weeks beginning tomorrow. So these members have been notified, and the great thing is that there was a very optimistic and eager response to be on this. I don't think anybody said no, and names were given to us by representatives of each of these groups. So we're pretty comfortable with that representation, and our first meeting is tomorrow evening. And as one might think, with 52 members, trying to get a lot done with that many people, it has to be very specific and organized. So we've looked at what some other districts are doing, and we're able to come up with and narrow down kind of what we're seeing as the common threads. And we call these and we'll break that group of 52 into rapid response teams under the following categories that are health and safety, teaching and learning, facilities and operations, special education, and student support services. And we'll try to, the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about what each of those represent, and also some other considerations that may fall outside these categories that we're also talking about. So again, this is some information that other school districts, we got some information from. And for example, under health and safety, personal protective equipment, you've heard a lot about that. That would fall into this category. Building cleaning protocols, allowable occupancy, social distancing protocols, all those important details to keep our schools safe. Facilities and operations, space and occupancy flow. How does the school day flow? How do the kids come in and out of the building, class to class, such. Isolation rooms, which are mandated in the guidelines. Transportation is obviously a big one under here, and food service is another big one. So that would be that category. Teaching and learning, obviously another important category, and talks about our way of instruction under the 3 models. And then special education and student support services. We've got some more specific guidance on that, which is helpful. And this will also be guidance and counseling falls under here. Social emotional supports, which we anticipate, we'll need to cover. And over here, we have considerations that haven't fell under those categories that we'll be talking about. Student attendance, we're waiting for guidance from the commissioner on that. Labor agreements, the change in working conditions, and as we come back with the unions will be discussed and negotiated. Scheduling models may have to change based on all of the information we receive in the guidelines. And without going through all of them, you get kind of a list of to-dos that we have here. So we're trying to set these groups up to be smaller groups in which they'll be discussing these categories and then starting to discuss and plan on a plan of attack for the considerations as well. And so an offshoot of that larger task force is our steering committee. And the steering committee's charge, which is a smaller group, will be to work collaboratively with the task force and have the primary role of providing strategic direction and support to the superintendent for implementing the plan that's developed by the task force. So as you can see, there's this school personnel and basically a lot of our district leadership team. So when that larger group comes to some consensus on plans and ideas, this group will be meeting regularly to make sure that they're applied practically in our buildings. And then a vital component to all of this is our communication plan. And I think you can never communicate too much. So here's an outline, and so we can start getting information out there to our stakeholders and school and community members. And so the first one is something Mr. Gates and I had spoken about. We like the idea of how the town administrator and select board would do a weekly report, live streamed and then recorded and presented online. And in our efforts to build strong relationships with the town administrators, we have met and spoken to the town administrator and chairman of the Board of Selectmen, and we're invited to participate with them in their weekly COVID updates. So we'll be part of that meeting. It'll be the town and then the school side, and those will be on Mondays at 9:30 a.m. So we're hoping to start that next Monday to give updates weekly on where we stand with our plan and ongoing, trying to answer ongoing questions and concerns that the community may have. The next one will be weekly notices to families and community. And we're hoping to get something out again either this week or Monday. It will coordinate with those video meetings, and this will be a written document that will go out to our school and community about updates every week. The next one is important because we need feedback, and so there'll be surveys going out to our staff, parents, guardians, and caregivers, and our students. Very shortly. There should be a staff one going out this week and possibly the others as well, feedback about the multiple plans, ideas, concerns, questions. And so we want to make sure we're listening to the school community and what they have to say. The next one is community forums. I think it's important for me as superintendent to be available to all of our school community. And so I'll be setting up beginning next week, Zoom. Initially, we'll do Zoom and forums in which we'll have them with the staff, the families, the students, and then a larger one for the greater community, in which we'll invite those groups to come in and, again, ask questions, share concerns, share ideas. We've also received a lot of good ideas that people have. So we'll be doing that in the upcoming week to make sure that we're listening and hearing what people have to say. So everybody, we feel it's important, has a voice, and will have access to me as the superintendent to offer feedback. And that information I collect and share in those forums will go directly back to the larger task force and the steering committees to help guide them in their decision making, and to make sure that this is a community decision as we bring everyone back. And then website, we're looking to do some work and updating on our website, and I think this is a good place to start, to have a featured place on the home landing of our website, where it will be strictly spent on the reopening of schools, and we'll have all this information, all updates, and it'll be easy one-stop shop for people to go and to learn all about our progress on developing our plans when they eventually come out, feedback forms, and other data. So that will be in the works. And then the email hotline is something we've already started. And it's, we didn't put it on this slide, but it's @2020 reopening. So @2020 reopening if you want to email questions or concerns or ideas to us. And again, we've already have received a lot of those because that was out in prior correspondence. So we'll be sending that out continuously. So people have another avenue if they can't make the forums and or want to participate here. They'll always have an avenue to email their questions. And eventually we'll be developing a frequently asked questions document, which reminds me that the state has also received a frequently asked questions document that we'll be posting as well. So we'll be doing our own version of that for Scituate Public Schools as we get those. And the last one is social media posts. We'll try to be as visible as possible on social media, posting updates and these other documents and notices that go out, so that we're trying to meet people where they're at with this communication plan. And this can expand, obviously, as we receive input. So in summary, I just put a quote down by Commissioner Riley, and he stated, "As we all know, the COVID-19 context in Massachusetts is not static, and we will continue to monitor the situation closely. To have a successful school year, we all have to be problem solvers, flexible and responsive to data, and willing to course correct as necessary." So I think it's important for all of us to do the best we can to be patient, to be flexible, As you saw from a previous slide, there's a lot of information still coming our way that we don't have. It might show up tomorrow, the next day, and we have to be able to react. We also are keeping an eye, obviously, on the COVID cases in our town and in the state, and the governor's directives. They may change on a dime, so we have to be flexible. So I think that's the operative word as we plan, is to be flexible and to work together. The next point I wanted to bring up is there's no perfect plan. You know, I've probably read about 100 different versions of plans other states and other countries have started to implement. I know a lot of other people out there have done so, and we've gotten a lot of good feedback. And I think the best way to go about this is go through our task force, go through our community forums, share your ideas, and we take the best of what fits Scituate and our students and families and educators best. And so no matter what we come out with, nothing's perfect. Every plan has pros and cons. But again, the goal is that we get everybody's voice involved, and we have a group that's working hard to get most specifically what benefits our students, educators, and community. And the last one, and certainly not least, and how I'd also like to approach this, is that coming back to school every fall is typically a celebration. And I know that we're in COVID-19 pandemic. I think it's very real to all of us. However, we're going to do our best to make this a celebration. The goal is to bring kids back safely and the educators back into the building in a safe manner. And to me, that's just exciting enough. I know that full online virtual, there's no replacement for in-class education. So we have some work to do to get there, to plan that and to get it ready. But I'm looking forward to that first day of school, and that it's a celebration, and that it's a unique year. But we want everyone to be excited to come back and to know they're safe. So that will be our goal this year. And that's what I have for that.
Great, thank you, that was great.
Am I still,
You're still screen sharing.
I don't want to lock myself out of the meeting, so I got to figure out how to get out of this. All right, here we go. Let me know when I've achieved getting back to the meeting.
Now we're looking at your PowerPoint.
Okay. Okay, I see.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
I did unmute everybody, but you should be able to unmute yourselves. Let me see. Unmute.
There we go.
Did,
All right.
did I do that or did you do that?
You did. Yeah, you did that.
Okay.
I think you have to unmute individuals.
Mute. Now this will be fun.
Thank you.
All right. Takes a minute. You should be able, you couldn't do it yourself, Peter?
No, it says that you've muted us, so we can't do it.
All right.
You'll be able to unmute everyone probably once we get to the public comments.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to do it the first time, but the second time it let me unmute. So
Okay.
maybe.
All right, so we have all the members are able to talk now.
Well, I have to
Nicole's
find
muted,
Mike's phone
and
number.
Nicole are muted. Jen's muted.
All right.
Nicole's muted again.
I didn't mute her.
You did unmute me, but I had to mute myself because I had a kid come in the room.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to unmute everybody. All right. Okay. I muted everybody, but you should be able to unmute yourself.
Got it. That worked.
Okay.
All right. All right. So we have the Mike Long.
You're on, Mike? Mike's unmuted.
Okay. Obviously, Bill, that was a lot of information and work. I know that just didn't just happen overnight. I know that just shows your efforts leading up to your first official day. So I appreciate all the hard work that you've been doing. I just want to open up to the committee to see if they have any questions or comments right now.
I think it's, it's a lot to do, and it's what seems like a short time. And it's going to be a hard decision to make of what school's going to look like in September. I think everybody's been hearing there's a lot of information out there of what's safe, what's not safe. And, I think we'll have a good team thinking about the best plan come September 2nd.
And Bill, I think that this is a great start. Obviously, as Janice said, we have a ton of work to do in a very short period of time, and I know we'll get there. It's going to be through hard work and cooperation. I only have one concern, and again, it's not really, and it's timing wise. If the task force and agrees, and the administrative team agrees that we need to professionally sanitize every building before school starts, is there enough time to do that? Get that ordered and done? That's my only concern tonight.
Yes. Yeah, I think that needs to be done anyway, and that's been part of what's been going on prior to me arriving, is the building clean out and disinfecting. So I think we're in a good place for that already. And then we've ordered our supplies for the initial 3 months, and we're going to be, I know Mr. Donlan will be ordering more. So I think as far as preparation for PPE right now, we still have some more to do. As principals, work with the custodial teams and Mr. Dillon, our facilities assistant, going building to building, kind of making sure that we have all the right protective equipment in place, including offices and meeting spaces. And so we're in the process right now of doing that to make sure that not only are the buildings disinfected and ready to go, but also that all the safety, proper safety equipment is installed and ready to go.
And I mean, are we anticipating, at least at this point, that the building sanitation will be done by our staff or by professional cleaners?
Well, at this point, it's our staff.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I have a lot of questions, but I think they're probably for the subcommittee. I think I have questions that can't be answered yet until those subcommittees start meeting and making decisions. So I guess you'd mentioned about the 3 feet or the 6 feet apart. I'd seen kind of different information about some districts are really kind of just sticking to the 6 foot. Where do we fall in that? I know you mentioned it about between the 3 feet to 6 feet distance. Is that something we're able to do? Do you think with the 6 feet?
I'm not sure your question is it, can we do 6 feet?
Yeah.
Yeah. We could do 6 feet, but it may have to be in a stagger type schedule situation or a hybrid situation.
Yeah.
We couldn't fit all the kids in at once at 6 feet with our spacing, current spacing of our buildings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I think that's.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's a great question because the CDC says one thing and the guidelines say a different thing. We've checked out both.
Yeah.
And we can do the 3 feet. We can fit all our kids back, but the question more needs to, with more discussion and conversations from medical experts, is that the best way to go for Scituate?
Yeah.
I have a question. I'm a parent. Is this during the community time or?
Nope, sorry. There will be a public comment time, not at this point in the agenda, but there will be a point that you could ask your question or make a comment.
My apologies.
No problem. Any other school?
Bill, I just had two quick questions. I didn't see Metco being represented on the task force. Have we been in conversation with the Metco directors, or has Metco in general given any guidance on what they're asking their families to do?
Yeah, it's a great question, Mr. Long. Actually, our Metco director is on the steering committee. She didn't come to today's meeting. She's on vacation, but she is part of the conversations and will be part of that steering committee and decision-making process. Absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. And then in terms of the communication plan, are we going to have either an FAQ list or something, or are we going to put all of the information in one centralized location so that people don't have to find a weekly town update that you and Peter are on, or going to different places to try to find the information? I just want to make sure that from a community perspective, we're not creating frustration of I have to go to 5 different places to get really one update.
Right. And I think that's a great point. So the answer is yes. It'll be on our website, and then we'll make sure we flood that information out there. And then one stop, you go to our website, and it'll be right on the main page and clear as day. And within that, we'll have all the breakouts of the important documents, and so people can easily navigate that. So that's part of our updating our website, while at the same time having people, have easy access to the information. And kind of concurrently going with that, we're going to kind of flood people with information too. So try to hit everybody on all kinds of venues. So I think our goal is that it's going to be hard to miss the information that goes out. But the answer is yes, we will have a centralized location on our website.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think a lot of people try to use the app too. I know myself, I have it on my phone and it's horrendous. I can't even, I don't know what else to say besides that. So if you guys can make that workable, that would be fantastic.
Is that the website app you're referring to?
Yeah.
Okay, didn't even know we have one.
Well intended, and it's a great idea, but it's really not, it just doesn't
Okay.
work.
No.
It just sends you to the website.
Yeah,
Okay,
that would be wonderful.
that's good to know. And that would be, because I think that's another great way to access people on their phones. And so
Yeah.
if we can get that tightened up, that'll be huge. So thank you for sharing that.
Any other questions or comments?
No, I just agree with I agree with Mike Long's statement on just centralizing communication, because I think it's such a fast, rapid pace changing daily updates, DESE, state, school. It's so much to take in that if we can streamline it and have it all come out consistently and expected this day, this time, these are our updates, we're all on the same page, I think people have a little bit of their minds eased that we're solid on a plan, we're headed in the right direction. When you feel confident, we need to feel confident that our kids are going to be safe and that everybody's on the same page, and that obviously our teachers and staff are safe, and the more information they have and the clearer it is, the better, I think.
Right, I agree. I also think that, as Mr. Burke had said, this is a very fluid situation. It realistically could change day to day. And I think that we do have to compare ourselves to other local districts, but at the same point, realize that there are differences between them. And one of them, I think one of the things that can really change is if we have an increased number of COVID positive tests over some period of time, our school district may have to do something different from our neighbors. So I think it's really important to utilize and see what they're doing, but also expect that it may not look just like our neighbors for a variety of reasons. And Bill, I like the fact that, this task force, whatever you want to call it, I mean, they have real work to do, and it's basically, they need to come up with a plan in 2 weeks. I'm not sure how realistic that is, but I know that the state is looking for that. So we need to do that, and our committee here will hold, obviously, accountable, because I think at our next meeting on the 27th, we'll be looking for the recommendations by you and the committee at that point in time.
Right, there's no question about it. And there's a template the state will be sending out that we need to use, and we don't have that yet. So that will even be more of a challenge. We're hoping to get that any day now. So.
Okay. And the last thing is, I know that Bill, and he mentioned the school committee chair would take part in these weekly Monday meetings at the town. I may go in the rotation similar to the selectmen and ask that we rotate as well. I know that all of us have other responsibilities as well. It just may be difficult for me to make every Monday morning at 9:30. So depending on how the first one goes, which I will participate in, I may ask each of the school committee members to take a day, if that's acceptable.
Yeah, that's how the selectmen have been doing it. It's fine.
So I'll reach out after our Monday meeting and see if we can come up with a schedule and see what your availabilities
I
are.
would note, I looked at the agenda for tomorrow night's selectmen meeting, and it's a very short agenda that is going to be talking about nothing but the COVID response within the town. So I think it's important that there be somebody from the school committee taking part in that meeting.
Would anyone like to participate?
I think Mike just volunteered.
Yeah. I had talked to Bill about being on the task force because of like I explained to him, I've been living with, dealing with COVID at work, getting the updates and changes on a daily basis, dealing with people who are afraid to come into work, trying not to, with trying to stop the spread of the disease at work. So in short, I'd be happy to attend the that selectmen's meeting if you wanted to.
You're volunteering, you're nominating yourself for the,
and for the reasons you state, Janice,
Yeah.
you've been living this 10 hours a day for 5 months. So.
Yeah, since the middle of March.
Can I point out that unfortunately, because we had to move quickly, our first task force meeting is tomorrow night as well.
Yeah.
And that, I did put down there, we welcome at least up to, that would be your decision as a school committee, welcome up to 2 school committee members to be part of that task force. And we can get you that information out once you decide who those members will be.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think I can probably participate in the selectmen's meeting tomorrow. Is it, Mike, it was kind of marketed as their retreat, correct? Like a workshop type of thing?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, that's the Maritime Center.
Yes. Yep. It's not it's not a formal meeting. There's no votes being taken. It's not being recorded. It's just more of an, like an update on what the town finances are looking like in terms of going forward and how this pandemic will relate to that. So what I would recommend is, Janice, if you want to be on the Safe and Strong Reopening Task Force, I can attend the Selectmen's workshop tomorrow. I am the liaison, so I have no problem in going there. But if you'd like to be on this committee, are there others that are interested in being on the Reopening Task Force?
I would if we can have 2.
Yeah, I think he said 2.
Said 2, yeah.
All right. I don't think we need to vote on it, but we can if you'd like.
I don't see anybody else jumping.
All right, so Mike, Long, and Janice, you'd like to be on the Safe and Strong Reopening Task Force?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll attend the Selectmen's Retreat workshop tomorrow.
Great.
That sound good?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you both.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions?
I'm sorry,
Ron?
Keith.
Any
Yeah,
questions?
I have one more question for Bill. So obviously we're gonna have to vote on this pretty quickly as a school committee. Right now we're scheduled to only meet twice in August. I don't know if it makes sense for us to either meet more regularly in August, especially if we need to give a forum for the community. I know you put several forums for the community in your document, but if it makes sense for us to meet more often, but at the very least, what we might want to look at is if all the documentation is being saved on a Google Drive somewhere, that we make the other members of the school committee able to access that information, just so that they're not either looking for an update, or if someone's asking them in the public for an update, they at least have some documentation they can reference.
Absolutely, we can do that. And to answer your first question about meetings, they moved the first draft, at least, is due July 31st. So I know we have the meeting on the 27th. So it will be my goal to get at least something to the school committee for that meeting. And then we can decide based on how far we get then, if we want to have additional meetings would be my recommendation.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I think we can look at the next meeting and see kind of what guidelines have changed and what we anticipate to set up additional meetings. It was my goal to initiate the weekly updates to the town simply just to share information. If there are policies and substantial changes that we need to review, then yes, I would think that we would want to schedule and set up additional school committee meetings. But right now, I think let's table it until our next meeting and then talk about adding 1 or 2 in the month of August if necessary. Does that sound good?
Yeah, and if need be.
Yeah, no, I agree with that approach. I just want to make sure we brought it up now.
Okay.
We can have an emergency meeting within 48 hours, so.
Yeah. Okay.
I think
All right,
those weekly meetings with the town will be great because as soon as they're done, they send them out and everybody, it'll reach a larger audience on a weekly basis too.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions regarding the reopening? All right. Next agenda item is South Shore Educational Collaborative Liaison Appointment. South Shore Educational Collaborative provides specialized educational and residential programs and services for students and adults diagnosed with a wide range of intellectual, educational, emotional, social, physical, and/or mental challenges. We're required as a member district to appoint a representative. Generally, it is our superintendent. I would like to entertain a motion, or would anyone like to make a motion to nominate Mr. Burkhead for that position?
I'll make a motion. Oh.
Moved by Hayes. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Limblom. Brandolini.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Yates, yes. Limblom.
Yes.
Hayes.
Yes.
All right, congratulations, Mr. Burkhead.
Thank you.
All right, next agenda item, non-union personnel agreements. Mr. Burkhead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Gates. So at the June 25th, 2020 school committee meeting, it was voted to approve the non-union personnel salaries as you received in your backup. And it's a lump sum of all the salary increases for the fiscal year 21. When I came on board in July, and reviewed the document and spoke to Mr. Principal Ryan Beatty. His contract was not accurate, so we had to adjust that. And that's noted in your backup document, that small change. But to be above board and transparent with it, we wanted to make sure, and we're asking that you vote on the entire document again. Nothing's changed but that one edit. But again, that was the reason, and we'd like to take another vote to make that official.
I'll make a motion that we vote the non-union contracts as amended in today's backup material.
Second.
Oh,
There.
sorry, sorry. I'm sorry, was there a motion by Mike Hayes?
Yes.
Seconded by
Mike Long.
Mike Long. All right, Gates, yes. Brandolini?
Yes.
Limblom?
Yes.
Hayes?
Yes.
Long?
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Sorry, my internet went, I don't know, it said it was unstable. I'm not sure what's going on. Hopefully it can stay here. All right, next item on the agenda. Special Education Administrator Consultant, Mr. Burkhead.
Thank you, Mr. Gates. This was discussed the last, it might have been discussed the last school committee meeting, but it was approved a couple meetings ago, the hiring of a new special education director, Ms. Michelle Bobert. And the issue was that Diana Mullen ended her tenure last Friday, which was July 10th. And then Ms. Bobert won't start till August 3rd. So that puts us with a 3-week window with no special education director. Understanding that it's summertime is one thing, but with a whole new administrative team, we felt it very important that we have someone fill that void. And there's help us with the transition. And there's 4 reasons why that I want to share with you and just update you on the thought process behind this. To bring someone in, a consultant and special education experience, to basically do a program overview. So an outside set of eyes coming in and just kind of taking a look at our program and how we've done things, looking at our budget, things like that. Second, assistance with the transition process. We just talked about in 2 weeks before Michelle's even on board, we'll have to come up with a plan. A major part of that plan involves special education decisions. So we needed somebody in place that has that background and knowledge and experience to help us with input on that and guidance. Also, our commitment to our needs of the summer programming that's ongoing right now and the needs of our families. And finally, the assistance and guidance on an initial safe return to school plan. So I was able to get Charles Jodin on board. Charles is an independent consultant in the area of special education and school leadership. He's an instructor at the American International College, former director of student services for the Falmouth Public Schools, and a former principal of an urban therapeutic public day school. So he's just going to come on 2 or 3 days a week, a total of 10 days, I believe, in the next 3 weeks to help fill those roles and help get us through the transition. So that's more of an information, and I'd be happy to answer any questions for you.
That's great. I know that there was concern by the committee about the couple of week periods. I think this seems like a very reasonable option. It's just through August 1st, just for the end of July.
Yes, I actually timed it up so it's August 3rd will be his last day, the same day that Michelle starts. So they'll be communicating in the process anyways. They know each other, which helps. And they'll both work together. That 10th day will be Michelle's first day to do a in-person kind of handoff and transition and final day. So we timed it up like that.
All right, great. Thank you. Any other questions?
All set.
All right, great. All right, this is the first opportunity for public comment. Janice, is everyone unmuted at this point?
No, everybody is muted.
Okay.
And if they have a question, they can unmute themselves. I don't know if you want to let them use the chat to like queue everybody up, because otherwise everybody will be unmuting themselves and asking questions at the same time.
All right, looks like we have a large number of participants.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's use the chat function. If you have a question or comment, please provide. Looks like it's disabled. Host disabled attendee chat.
The group chat is
It just says that the host disabled the attendee chat.
where does it say that? Chat.
Here we go. If you have a question or comment, could you please just type your name or just type a message, I have a question, and then we can you can unmute yourself when I call on you.
Yeah, it's everyone can use the chat.
Yep, looks like it's open. If you have a question or comment, please just type your name or indication you have a question in the chat, please.
Okay, and then put their name and address too.
Carlos, Well, I'll just call on this. This is Robin. Okay, Robin, can you unmute yourself?
Okay, yeah, I'm unmuted.
Okay, just say your name and address, please.
Robin Glazier, 26 Persimmon Drive. So my question is just, have you gotten as far as figuring out how you're going to establish the culture within the schools in terms of getting kids to adhere to mask wearing the entire time they're in the school?
Mr. Burkett, I'm going to give that one to you.
Absolutely, thank you. And it's a great question. No, we haven't gotten that far in that detail, but that's certainly something that we will need to address, and I'll rely on our educators to have input on that and feedback in our smaller groups and committee work. And we'll have a group of, when we start coming into the details of the plan, certainly how, getting used to wearing masks and training our staff, but also our students. And we also talked about families and working with families and providing some safety education around preparing kids for school and support and having kids wear masks. And a big part of that too, I think, is incorporating mask breaks, because it's not going to be easy, right, to learn with wearing a mask. So mask breaks are going to be an important and integral part of what we do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Peter, can I add to that?
Yes.
Knowing that kids are going to have to, if kids are in the schools in September, I would just encourage, and I think a lot of families are doing this already, that just get your kids used to wearing masks now. We don't want kids coming to school on September 2nd not having ever had to wear a mask. So, and I know I've seen a lot of younger kids out and about with masks on. So, but that would help us.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you have two separate camps. You have older kids that just don't want to wear them because they're older kids, and then you have little ones that don't know how to tie shoes and don't like their socks facing a certain way, like my kids, and they're going to think the mask is, But yeah. I will say, and it's not obviously a blanket statement for all children, but as a school counselor, you would be surprised at how capable children are when their parents are not in the room. So have faith in your children. They can do amazing things when you're not around somehow. But obviously, on a more serious note, there's going to be a group of children that require extra, tenderness with that because of whatever it is that they experience on a daily basis with sensory issues or concerns. So I think our task force which includes school counselors and psychologists, and, they know what to do, I would say, when those issues arise in general, and hopefully they can take those skills and apply them to the mask situation. Too bad, but it is where we're at right now.
Okay, thanks. So we have a few more questions. Evan, you can unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
Hello, my name is Evan Halevi, and I live at 65 First Parish Road, and I'm currently a student at Scituate High School. So this isn't, I'll turn on my camera, okay. So this directly isn't a question about reopening the school, but I will be soon out of the school system, so my time to ask this will be short. It's more about the curriculum. So students are having sex. It's a teenage thing, and our current sex ed program is, at least from my point of view and from many other people, inadequate. It does not cover consent. It very poorly covers contraceptives, and while it covers contraceptives, it pushes a pro-abstinence viewpoint, which is connected to higher teen pregnancies and unsafe sex. It doesn't cover how to safely explore one's own sexuality, and nowhere in the health curriculum does it talk about the existence of gay people or LGBT people at all. So I was hoping that sometime during the school year, or even by the time the school year starts, that work can be done to fix the curriculum. So what can we do to make the sex ed curriculum better?
Evan, first of all, thank you very much for addressing a mature and sometimes difficult topic to discuss. I applaud you. I wouldn't have guessed you were a high school student. I'm guessing you're a senior based on what you said.
Yes.
but based upon how you said it, I would have guessed you're at least a senior in college. So congratulations on that. I'm not going to comment. I know that I received an email from you, I think, today. I did respond, I believe. I did respond. I'd like to pass this over to Superintendent Burkhead. Have him provide his initial thoughts. But generally, will be a protocol to, I guess, changes to curriculum can be very difficult. But I'd like to address or have him address it, and then we can follow up from there.
Thank you, and thank you, Evan. It's nice to meet you, and thank you for coming on tonight and speaking. And I think how we make change in our curriculum and our policies is through voice, and especially student voice. And so for you to come on as a senior graduating to share your concerns about the curriculum is very helpful. You know, a big part of my initial weeks and months is to learn and to listen. And so I've obviously made a note of your concern. And moving forward, it's something we can address. And just because you graduate doesn't mean you won't have a voice. I know a big part of the work that was being done before I got here was to build on our alum coming back and sharing part of the community and culture and what we do. So you'll always have a voice here. And if you want to shoot me an email, maybe it's the same one you shared with Mr. Gates, I'd be happy to take that and use that as part of our curriculum review. But that will be a part of our discussion. It is a part of every district's discussion every year. And it's something I need to hear from students, families, and something we take very seriously. So thank you for your input.
I would be more than happy, at least during the school year, to actually work with you guys on it. I know that it can be a very molasses-esque topic, and if there isn't constant force behind it, it can very quickly get pushed to the side and then forgotten because it's uncomfortable for everyone, for parents, for students, and even for teachers who have to say these kinds of things. So I'll be more than happy to meet during the school year or even during the summer to help with it if need be.
Great.
So
I appreciate that. And, I'm sure Mr. Burkett, we have a lot of things to focus on. He'll certainly make this part of his to-do list.
And I look forward to meeting you and seeing you August 1st at graduation.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, Evan.
Okay. Still several questions still coming in. Emily, Boston Road.
Hello, it's Emily Folly. Thank you. I think my question is a general one, but maybe perhaps towards Mr. Burkhead. My question is about the hybrid model. Is there space in that model for parents and teachers to make decisions based on whether they feel like it's safe and appropriate for their child and or their self to be in school for learning?
Yes, thank you for that question. I think it's an excellent question. I think the initial guidance on that is yes. I think parents and or students will have a say in whether they return or not based on their health situation, if their home environment or living with somebody that's immunocompromised and a variety of other reasons. But the short answer is yes.
Thank you. And if I could just quickly follow up with a comment, one of the concerns that I had, if there is a rotation schedule, is I would just encourage you to think about all siblings across the district to be on the same schedule, whether that the siblings are in high school and middle school together or high school down to elementary school, and even in some cases preschool, just to have that consideration, because I think it would just add another layer of chaos if children in the same household are on different weeks in that rotation schedule.
I agree. That sounds like common sense, and absolutely we'll take that into consideration. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up is Hillary. I know you did type it in, but would you mind asking it in person?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Just a quick thought. My name is Hillary Tyson, and I'm on 10 Wamsutter Road. I have a first grader going into second grade at the Jenkins School. And, I know that clearly there's lots of challenges with returning to school. And I was fortunate enough that my child is in the Scituate rec program at Jenkins School right now. And, he is wearing his mask for most of the time. And so it has been quite successful. And I'm wondering if there's any consideration to some outdoor learning, given that there's lots of risk with cleaning and 6 feet distance and all of that. And, there are other countries that have outdoor learning and there's a lot of benefits to that. So that's really where my question is coming from, if there's any consideration for that.
I believe it's in the DESI guidelines recommendation wise to use outdoor spaces as you're able to, but Bill, I probably can answer that better than me.
Yes, 100%. We're going to, especially fall is nice weather, we're going to try to use every available ounce of space and creativity we can. And I know in the question it said something about a tent. I don't know if you were the one that sent me that email, Ms. Tyson, but someone also had emailed us on the hotline there about considering tents for outside, and that is part of our discussion. It already came up. So thank you, and that's a great idea. That's a great example, I would say, of ideas that the community has shared with us that have helped. So thank you,
Well,
and the answer is yes.
That is great to hear. When I see all the restaurants with the tents, that's where kind of my idea came up. Why not, right? Like, let's try to capitalize on our weather and health and being outside. So thank you very much.
And I know this won't really help dramatically, but we do have that outdoor learning classroom, or outdoor classroom at the Wampatuck School, which I think is finally complete after about 3 years. So I would hope that they'd be able to utilize that to some degree. Okay.
Pete, can I ask a follow-up question to that?
Absolutely.
Bill, have we also looked or talked to the town about using any other town buildings that are available, or even, as much as I hate to say this, the old Gates School, as a potential place for us to use to at least have that distancing?
The answer is yes. The town administrator is very open to us using town properties, including the old Gates Middle School. I actually went on a tour over there last week, my first week, and even if it's not for educational purposes, there's also the potential we'll need space for storage of extra materials or space that we have to get taken out of the schools to make room for the students for social distancing. So I guess the short answer is yes, the town administrator has been open to working with us on our space and needs to use town facilities.
Okay, great.
All right. Let's see. More questions, comments coming. It's great. Looks like Sarah Rossini. Would you mind asking your question?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I have a student entering kindergarten at Hatherley, and my first question is regarding tuition. So schools shut down again because we're forced to, and students are sent home to distance learn. What is the plan for tuition reimbursement there, where they're not getting those extra 3 hours of enrichment time?
Bill, do you want to take that one, or do you
Sure.
want to?
Sure. I mean, there is no specific plan. However, at this point, but I think it's important to have one. So that has been brought up, and that's an important thing. So we avoid, I guess, to be proactive, and that people know that have children in kindergarten what the plan is, and if we do go to remote learning, what the payment structure would look like. I think we have to address all that up front to avoid any confusion or concerns after the fact. So the answer will be, once we roll out the plan, we'll have a special, or my recommendation will be that we have a special section of that document that talks about kindergarten or any other fee-based structure. I think a lot of districts should be considering that any fee-based structure that they have, if things are canceled, we need to have a proactive plan instead of a reactive plan.
Perfect. And the other piece of that, I know right now is that guidelines are under second grade don't require a mask, but the teachers and staff will obviously be wearing them. As far as literacy and language development, pronunciation for smaller kids learning to read, what is the plan for that, where they're not going to be able to learn facial expressions and see the teacher's mouths moving in the correct shapes and those types of things? How will the curriculum be altered accordingly to address that?
Well, we have been looking at clear masks. They do have clear masks. They're hard to come by right now because the medical profession have been using them, but there are masks that we can get for those has students maybe that are impaired hearing and things like that, but also the younger kids. So we are looking at that option and are aware of that need. So we are addressing that.
And does that include getting those for the teachers so the children can see their faces as well, especially at those younger ages?
It does include that. It's not a definite, but that's what we're looking into for sure. Yep. We
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, it has come up, and we do value that, you know, those facial reactions and that for literacy, but for a lot of reasons. So yes, that's important.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next question, Milena.
Milena at 142 Country Way. My question was about lockdown drills and should the kids be back at school in buildings, how would that be even dealt with considering social distancing rules and requirements and keeping quiet and everything? That was my question.
I guess I'm taking that one too, Mr. Gates.
Yeah. Yep.
So
I
a
think
lot
so.
of, well, excellent question. And these are the questions that are driving us to make sure we don't miss anything. I think it's important, and that's why you'll see on the task forces that we have police representation, fire representation to talk about fire drills, lockdown drills. Those will all be part of the detailed conversations we ultimately get to before we open safely. So everything we've done normally that are important to running a safe school need to be dealt with. So those questions will be answered prior to a return to school, but it's a very important question and something we have to address for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Berger. I think also these questions are great, and I'm looking for ways to increase participation by our families, and I feel like having these meetings remotely has certainly done that. What I want to remind everyone too is that our reopening task force is starting tomorrow. So there may not be answers to all your questions, but keep them coming, whether now or in the through the email, reopening email, so we can get your questions answered. All right.
I think we should also, and I know this was in your presentation, Bill, too. I think it's important, though, that we, before any of the task forces or sub-task forces get rolling too deep, that we really get a pulse on how families are feeling about all of this and what their situations are, and really get a survey out there to families, faculty, and staff. I think we should start with, you know, that initial where everything is at, where everybody's at in their heads, and what plans are for fall. And then maybe that would guide decision-making in the task forces.
Yes, I completely agree. And that's kind of the agenda for tomorrow night, the larger task force meeting. That's going to be basically a large part of that is that initial group just kind of sharing, kind of like we're doing now, asking questions, having conversations, troubleshooting, and discussing ideas that we have. I think that will be the first meeting. That will give us time to get the initial feedback from those representative groups while we send out the surveys this week to get feedback for the following subcommittee and task force meetings. But you're absolutely right. We need that information.
Yeah, I mean, our community member who mentioned about trying to get siblings all on the same schedule, my brain just went, it kind of exploded a little bit. Like, I don't know how that happens. I want it as well. I mean, it's a lot, though. I don't know, maybe there are people that have those things figured out already, but that we can pull from to make it fit Scituate, but that's a tall order. And I mean, hybrid being obviously, I don't know, maybe the most probable way. Do we go a week on, a week off, and have two, you know, consortiums of students, or, you know, I'm just curious how Scituate families feel about, you know, what would be best for them, because everyone's working from home or traveling, and I don't know if we can get like what works best for most or many versus fewer. I don't know.
Yeah, I think how we address that is through the surveys, through the representation of the committees, through the forums, through the emails, through these conversations. I think we're starting to see already trends developing on certain questions, concerns. Then we're getting some new ones that we have to add. But I think as we get that information, and we'll act on it. And back to your question on the request to have the same students home. That's a real practical and important request for parents that we need to be aware of. But it also goes back to my final slide in the summary that no plan will be perfect and that not all these requests can be addressed, especially initially. But I think that's why it's important to have a lot of input and then have consensus. We're never going to get a unanimous response, because even in this conversation tonight, we're hearing all the very important details that are being discussed. You could probably magnify that by, the hundreds, the 100 or 2,000, up to 2,000 families, 3,000 families, that we represent that may not be here tonight that have questions and concerns. So the next week or two will be just consuming as much feedback as we can. And I completely agree that will help guide the task force and steering committee's decision-making, along with the state, any updated state information that comes our way.
All right, thank you. Next up is Nikki, Beaver Dam Road. Nikki, you there?
Yes, I'm here. I was having phone trouble. Sorry about that.
No problem.
We've seen the protests in at the Rotary and at the Common every Monday. There's been a lot of chatter back and forth on Scituate Monthly about signs being taken down and supporting the children that are holding the signs every week and putting the signs up. And in the wake of the George Floyd murder and the Black Lives Matter movement, obviously there's quite a bit of tension here and around the world. And I'm just wondering how the superintendent is going to address that so that it doesn't come to like a boiling point, and also what experience he might have had in similar situations to deal with students, concerns and issues and very passionate feelings around subjects like this.
Okay, Mr. Burkhead.
Yeah, so thank you for the question. I think it's a terrific question. It's actually one of the agenda items that we'll be getting to, but two of my, I call them pillars of focus, this incoming superintendent goals, if you will, or pillars of focus are the safe and strong return to school and the equity and the diversity, equity, and inclusion conversation. So you'll see in this agenda item that we are working with the town. The town's putting together a larger community group of representative people to talk about this. And the school will have their own, I think the school committee voted on that a couple meetings ago, subcommittee that will be recommending members of tonight. And I think we start there, similar to we start with our safe and strong return to schools. And my experience has been that when you start with a representative group of getting everybody at the table and moving away from either or conversations to and conversations, and get people to sit down together, I think you get away from the polarization that typically happens when things are fueled on social media or through the media or online. I think when you have a forum that you invite people in with a goal of creating a unified conversation about anything school related, our culture, how we include our students, how we represent them, our curriculum, all those things need to be discussed. And I think that work is already underway, establishing similarly to what we're doing to the opening schools and with the same passion to address those issues and concerns that are in the community. So that's the other half of my focus this summer and moving forward into the fall.
Great, thank you. Next up is Jen Hoadley.
Hello.
Hello.
My question is about the school supplies list that in the summertime, parents get the list of all the different items that students need to bring into school. Sometimes it's, tissues and wipes and, whatever stuff they need for school. Will that be increased to reflect the needs of any new cleaning products, or is there a budget item for that in the school budget?
All right, Bill, I'll take the second half of that. There is In terms of the budget, our budget was approved at town meeting. It did not include any line items for this. However, the CARES Act, Scituate is a recipient of a sum of money of which the school district will have access to. We've already put in orders for those types of supplies, your PPE, your hand sanitizer, and that sort of thing. So that will be provided by the district. It does not impact our budget directly. It comes from the CARES Act. In terms of classroom supplies, I'll hand that one over to Mr. Burkhead. I would assume perhaps, but I don't really know the answer to that.
And thank you, Mr. Gates. I think you handled the first one accurately, that the state has done a nice job of reimbursing us for protective supplies and has continued to do so. So, our goal philosophically, and my own personal goal, philosophical belief, is that we shouldn't be handing off any more financial responsibilities to parents. So the short answer to that is no, we won't be increasing those. Now, if individual teachers have supply lists every year, they may change to what they request, depending on our situation. But as far as sanitizers and things for student safety, that's something the school will be responsible for.
Thank you.
Sorry, Stephanie Burke, I did.
Sorry.
I apologize.
Peter, didn't we pre-order, maybe this is a Paul question, didn't we pre-order some supplies for cleaning and COVID related? Maybe I'm making this up.
Yes, we've ordered some. Paul, do you have specifics on what has been ordered?
Sure. Well, I don't have specifics. I know that we've got masks, we've got gloves, we've got N95 masks for nurses. We've ordered some clear masks. We've ordered the gowns for nurses. We've made a lot of face shields. I don't know how many we have of those, but if we do need some, we will order them. We have the foggers to clean the hard surfaces with the Clorox. We've ordered wipes. We've ordered 200 gallons of hand sanitizer. The dispensers might be another issue, but we have gallons of hand sanitizer. We're back ordered on the pumps. We were taking inventory today. I can give the school committee a better answer once I get back in tomorrow. Bob and I and Cindy, and we've been looking at what we got. My office is full, as Bill knows, with stuff. So, yes. The shorter answer is yes. The longer answer is I gave you a list there, Nicole.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought so.
And on the same topic, the school committee recently passed the resolution that requested these types of things be funded by the state. Plymouth County is in my understanding, Plymouth County is one of the first regions to receive this funding. And as a result, we have that. We are able to buy these things and order them now.
Correct. There are two regions. Boston and Plymouth County were the ones that got money that are not part of the state CARES Act. Those are the two quote unquote regions: Suffolk County, Boston School District, and Plymouth County.
Yep. Okay. Stephanie Burke, I apologize. I did skip you. The floor is yours.
It's okay. Thank you. Stephanie Burke, 93 Marion Road. I had a question. I haven't seen much literature on it, statewide, townwide, even federal-wide, but in regards to the, actually it's budget related, the insurance that the school is paying, as a small business owner, I know that I've been able to nickel and dime my insurance based on the current changes that are happening. I'm assuming that with the lack of children actually on public property, that has to have some impact on the amount of insurance the school district is paying, in addition to the lack of supplies that are being offered as paint, toilet paper, janitorial services, etc. In addition, I know that, yes, we want to take care of our teachers. I'm assuming that family and medical leave are already included, so I'm not seeing an adjustment on insurance there. I'm wondering if we're going to be able to see a line by line, or if it's even been addressed, at the adjustment of insurance And if we will be able to vote on that adjustment or the surplus of that before the town meeting next year. I think a lot of us parents have ideas of what we'd like to see, if any, available, the additional funds would go to. I don't know if that's even been looked at. Perhaps there's an answer and schools fall into a different category than small businesses, but I just wanted to know what's being done in regards to insurance and the large amount of money that is paid every year towards that.
All right.
Want me to take that, Peter?
Yeah, you can take that. I was just going to answer the part about the budget. The budget was just voted a couple of weeks ago. So the next budget wouldn't be until the following year, which would be for fiscal year 2022. With that being said, I'll hand the rest over to Paul.
The school department does not pay insurance per se. That we are a department of the town. The town takes care of all the insurances for us. Our vehicle insurance, our insure the buildings, insure all of the the workers' comp. That insurance is taken care of by the town. There's a line item for each one of those insurances. The individual Blue Cross Blue Shield that somebody gets, we participate with that with the town. So the only insurance that the Scituate Public Schools pay is for athletic insurance, which is above and beyond the policy of the town. And lo and behold, I asked that very question, Stephanie, of the provider for that, and the answer was no. They are not going to give us a break on our athletic insurance, even though we did not have a spring sport season. I went to my fellow business managers. They thought that was a good idea to put some pressure on them. We are now putting a little bit of pressure on the provider of the insurance for athletics. And we'll see. We got the same bill we had last year, and it's very minimal. It's like $5,000. But that is basically the only insurance that the school department pays. Everything that you have for a budget line item has to do with supplies, has to do with personnel, has to do with very small capital plans, like if we need a new a vacuum cleaner, or we need a new scrubber, or something to take care of our floors and things like that. A new piano, if we need to get tuned up, or things like that. And the other biggest one is contract services, which our biggest line item is out-of-district costs. Those are the 4 line items that we are taking care of. The insurances for our buildings, for our students, for the umbrella policies is all taken care of by the town. Nancy Holt looks at those things, and we are insured by Massachusetts Interlocal MIAA. MIAA, Bonnie, is that? I think that's what it's called. And they handle all of our insurances. So that is a town question that Nancy will address, I bet, at the special town meeting in the fall, if there's going to be any type of savings. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah. Okay. So anything would just be, it wouldn't be the district, it would more be the town. So we should address any of those issues and that. Okay, great. Thank you.
Paul.
Paul, has there been?
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Peter. Paul, has there been any conversation from the town to look at what our insurance currently is, and if there's anything we need to add to the insurance just to support our staff and make sure they have the coverage they need with this pandemic going on?
Good question, Mike. I have not answered that. I owe a phone call to Nancy tomorrow. I will ask that question.
All right. All right. Next, Erin Hurd.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. My question just has to do with, it's actually really not a question, but just a piece of feedback or statement. Just in getting ready for the school year, assuming that there's a hybrid model or some other type of model, if there will be, if homework or ongoing home projects, if those will be, or we will be recommending to teachers to adapt those a little bit, as if children are doing more at-home learning, just given the environment, and so many families are, both parents, working from home, and some of the stress that comes with the homework and the teaching at school while also trying to work. I know that's just a common theme I've talked about with a lot of friends here. I don't know if that's one of the discussion points that's going to come up with teachers for the upcoming school year.
I would think that that's probably going to come out of our task force, but I'll hand it over to Bill and see if he has anything to add to that.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Hurd. It's a great question, and what we do appreciate is the feedback from our initial surveys that were done in late June to the homes about the distance learning program, and feedback from that. So we've already got some really good ideas and feedback what it was like at the home with learning with children there. So I think with the hybrid model, we've got good feedback there. We're also going to ask for more feedback, more specific feedback moving forward. And then we'll take the feedback from parents, obviously, and then within our committees and task force and our professional educators and principals, I'm sure we will address that issue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, it looks like the last one, I think, Emily Matthews.
Hi, everybody. How are you all doing?
Hey, Emily.
This is Emily Matthews, 158 Clapp Road. I have a question about, actually it's similar to Aaron's. If we go with a hybrid model, how will we manage grading student work when 50% of the time we can confirm it's being done, and especially by the student?
Mr. Burkhead.
I think it's a very similar answer. It's something that we have to look on and address. I know that the new regulations from the commissioner and expectations are that no matter what model we choose, is that things will count. I guess that's the best way to put it, meaning that we have to develop a plan that at the days of pass fail or grades like that, we'll have to return to our original type of grading, whether it's on the standards or litter grades. And I think what we have to do is work with parents and our educators and administrators on what that looks like by living through this in the spring, getting feedback, learning from it as a community, and then developing our new plan to address some of those concerns.
So you do anticipate, obviously it's not going to look like the spring, but do you anticipate it would look like what the winter, what we just went through?
I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know what it looks like right now until I get, with these committees and task force, and I get the feedback. I don't want to make any rash decision on, July 13th, but the honest answer is, I don't know what it's going to look like. That's the truth of the matter. We don't have the final, we don't even have the, as you saw from if you were looking at the previous slides, a lot of the information that the Department of Education is to send us has not even been sent yet. So we're kind of waiting for that. But also, I think we need to be proactive because, as we mentioned, we've got 2 weeks to get this plan in. Basically, with not a lot of information from the state, and we're at the point now where we have to start collecting information and having conversations like this with parents, with our educators and families, and with our students and community to kind of come up with the best plan that fits us. So all this information has not been decided yet until we start meeting and having further conversations, forums, feedback, and further guidance from the Department of Education.
Great. Thank you.
Welcome.
I'm sorry, could I just throw in one more question? What percentage of the families are responding to the surveys? Is it a good percentage overall of the town who are responding and giving feedback about what's working and what's not working?
Bill, do you have any data on that?
I may reach out to Ms. Arnold. That was done in June, so I don't know if you have an idea of the feedback on that for the first one.
I didn't see the feedback on that. I believe that the former superintendent has that data. I'm not sure who we shared it with, but we could certainly get that.
Yeah, thank you. I know our principals have been looking at it, so we haven't calculated that, but we can get you that answer. That's a legitimate question. Thank you.
All right, and one more, Laura DeLong.
I have a first.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh, you can't. Okay, hold
There we
on.
go. That's better.
Is that a little better? Okay. So I'm concerned about, so I have a first grader, my youngest, and I'm concerned about, I know the requirements is second grade and above wearing masks. And, I do understand as kids, little, it's going to be challenging. But I just would like to, throw it out there that it would just ease my mind. I know it's not going to be perfect, but just to have, just for even the first graders. I know kindergarten is going to be really difficult, but just to have my voice heard, that would, I think that would be a really good consideration to send the kids back safely.
Yeah, I would think that's our number one goal. As long as to bring them all back, if we can do it safely as humanly possible. That's our goal. Right, Bill? Would you agree, Bill?
100%, Mr. Hayes. Absolutely.
Yeah. And Laura, I know my grandchildren are anxious to get back to school. I know that.
Yeah.
So, but we're going to do it if we can do it, and do everything we can humanly do to make it safe for kids and staff. That's where we'll be on the first day of school.
Yep. That's true. I concur. I mean, we have the right people working on it. We're going to do that. They're going to do the absolute. I have confidence they're going to do the absolute best that they can do. None of us have been through this before, so we're going to do what's in the best interest of the kids and the staff and our district.
Okay. Is the topic of the younger children wearing masks, is that being discussed at the task force meeting? Or will that be? I know hasn't met yet.
But I'll hand over to Bill, but the guidelines right now are K through 1 or K through 2 may not need to wear the mask, but I'll pass it over to Bill.
I think I'm taking notes tonight, and anything brought up by parents will certainly, be discussed. And I'm sure more than one parent or teacher has that same question. In fact, I know that one district has already moved to recommend that kindergartners and first graders wear them. I don't know if they mandated it, but that's also something I'd like to talk to our medical experts about that are on the panel. And we can make the plan that's specific to Scituate. So
that's a
the
great
guidelines
idea,
from the state are 2 through 12. We can, based on the medical evidence and what we feel is best for our kids, we can make other recommendations that we so choose.
I know that's a great idea, I think, Bill, because I know my daughter-in-law is a kindergarten teacher in another town, and like all the other kindergarten teachers, she says, she spends half the day rolling around on the floor with 5-year-olds, and it's going to be a tough transition, and whatever can be done, whether it's to see if we can get these kids masked as well, would be very important for both teachers and kids.
I'll tell you, I bet when we check in October, the kindergartners are going to be the models of those elementary schools for mask wearing. They're the best at singing the school songs. They shine bright at all the performances. They are going to be the models. It's the 5th graders we're going to worry about.
Yeah.
Cool. That's going to be a problem, I mean, there are some adorable, I'm sure all the kindergarten teachers and first grade teachers are already stockpiling all of the materials that have been being produced by educators for, back to school portraits, and they're doing drawing little flippy things with masks. They know they will normalize it as much as they can for their students.
I appreciate
that.
And I mean, already my kids are doing really well with the math, so I think they can, and they might think it's fun, who knows? Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Great. Thank you. Thank you to all the folks who are participating. I may be wrong, but that might have been the most number of questions you received, at least over the past several years. So I appreciate it. This is not an easy situation. Again, I feel very confident that we have the right people in place to make it work, and we're all going to work in making this a safe and enjoyable and hopefully educational year for all of our students. There will be another.
I feel very strongly, Pete, that Scituate is uniquely positioned to have the best outcome possible. With concerned and dedicated parents, great staff, great administrative team, and we've managed to ensure that all of our staff.
Lost Mike. Can you guys still hear me?
We can still hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Lost Mike.
Work ahead of us.
Okay. All right, Mike. We lost you for a minute, but thank you. I think we're all in agreement. We're going to make this the best that we can. I know it. I feel strong. That's why we're all here right now. So again, thank you very much to all the folks who tuned in. There will be another point in this meeting for public comment, though it will follow our executive session, I believe. Let me just make sure. Yeah, following our executive session. But we do have another meeting July 27th, which obviously will be bringing to you more information, more specific plans. And also for those who may tune out or may log off, the school committee is having a workshop next Thursday. It's not technically a public meeting. We're all getting together to see how we can work better for you and communicate better with you as well. So that's for our learning option, but we'll be having that next Thursday night. But again, I appreciate all the public involvement. Keep it coming. We'll do the best we can to answer your questions. So moving on. Sorry, I just got to get back to our agenda here. Subcommittee update, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Subcommittee. Jen, I'm going to hand it over to you. I have some comments too, but I'll let you introduce this or update this topic, and then I'll add a few comments as well.
Okay, so thank you, Chairman Gates. A couple of months ago, this committee, the school committee, decided that you wanted to put together a subcommittee focused on DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so we started talking about that, and then an anti-racism resolution was brought forward as well. In the meantime, the town had come out with their own desire to form a committee as well. And so in conversations with Mr. Burkhead, and I think he'd been talking to you, Peter, we decided that we wanted to be part of that committee, but that we should still have a school subcommittee, that like the school committee wanted that diversity, equity, and inclusion subcommittee. So I think that working with the town is a great opportunity to have a consistent message, to be able to foster that relationship with them. But I think that schools are unique, and that it's critical that we have our own committee, and that we are able to address those school issues, which we can bring back to the larger committee and bring from the larger committee the larger issues that the town is dealing with, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So in talking about this, we determined that we would like to make suggestions for the school-based committee, for the school committee subcommittee. And I can read those right now to you. We thought 2 school committee members, obviously, Superintendent Burkhead, Assistant Superintendent Arnold. We thought it was critical that Michelle Crawford Cranmore, the MEDCO program director, be on that subcommittee. School administrator representatives, it could be building principals or assistant principals. And then we had a really interesting professional development facilitation by Jameel Adams last year. He was at the high school. I think he would be really a good person for our committee because we had planned on doing more professional development with him going forward. A parent representative from each school, student representative from each school, Friends of Scituate MEDCO representative, STRIDE member or members, interfaith members. So from the faith community, we already had someone reach out, a minister or priest reach out asking about what we were going to do as a school district. So we thought we should open it up to the interfaith community. A Cape Verdean community representative. We don't often focus on that, but that's a large component of our population and specifically our English language learners. So I think that would be a really good idea to have one of those people on there. Scituate Police Department designee, Scituate Fire Department designee, community members, other community members who are driven by this work. School psychologists, 1 secondary and 1 elementary. School adjustment counselors, 1 elementary and 1 secondary again. Some department chairs, and librarians would be important too. School-based and public librarians. We do great work with Scituate Public Library, and they are looking to partner with us on this particular issue. And then FACTS, representatives from FACTS. So that is in the memo that I submitted to you, that entire list. So that was respectfully just to give you some foundational ideas about who to include on that committee.
Great, thank you.
And one thing I didn't see on that was any representatives from Allies Not Bystanders, because this is exactly what they've been working on for over 15 years. So I think they'd be a vital part to that group as well. And, you know, they have a good idea of the tenor of the school, especially the high school. And they go to the middle school and the elementary schools as well. So they have a good idea of what the population is thinking, and been part of those groups when we go down to the middle school and elementary schools. And it's quite different than school.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike. You're absolutely right. I'm sorry I neglected that, but thank you.
No worries. Yep.
Great. Jen, thanks for that. Thanks for that information. I think that it helps clarify the DEI groups for both parts of our community. I think we have to give credit to Nicole. I think that she's the one that brought this to the attention that the school really needs to have this subcommittee. And then the town, I assume, around the same time realized that they needed to have one as well. So it was the last couple of weeks, Superintendent Burkhead and I tried to figure out how best to facilitate these 2 subcommittees, and the ultimate, what we decided, and we as a committee will confirm that tonight, is that currently, or at whatever recent meetings, we did elect or nominate Nicole and Michael Hayes to be on the school side of DEI. But with the addition of a town one, we're also going to want a representative there. So Mike Hayes has represented that he would like to be involved on the town side. So if Mike would be interested in doing that, we just need to replace him on the school side. And I think that Janice had mentioned that she had interest in that.
I did. Does it make sense to have a committee member on both, or do you think that's too much? Because that way there's like a bridge
It's
between
a
the
good question, and it's one that came up, and I don't know the answer to that. I think that we do want them to work collaboratively and have a similar, though the school side is a much more specific message, I think. I don't know the best way to facilitate that, to be honest with you.
It was my understanding that it would not only be a school committee member, but it would be also administration from our own DEI. We'd have a representative beyond just the school committee representative. Is that?
But yeah, but would that person also be on the school DEI subcommittee and then also on the town one?
That's what was my thinking, and maybe Superintendent Burkhead, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
No, Ms. Arnold, you're 100% right. There'll be the same representative that's on the school subcommittee will also be on the town subcommittee, so we don't lose anything. That's the whole kind of the concept of it, is that the greater community work will be translated over into the individual schools work and vice versa, that we have representation at both. So we would expect to have school representation from the administration on each committee.
My original thought on that was, I mean, when we started talking about the school subcommittee, I mean, everybody wanted a piece of that, obviously, and I kind of pushed hard to get on the school one, but I guess I at least was under the impression until now that, and I'd be happy to take the town committee.
We're losing Mike.
Mike, we lost you. So I think the question is, does our school committee representative need to be on both of those committees?
I mean, I guess it goes to continuity. I mean, do you want, I mean, if you have two members on the school DEI committee, though, that are, I think if you have the same school committee member on each committee, it would just make it, the connection between the two committees would be better, rather than.
I'm just concerned about the commitment. Yeah. I mean, these are going to be heavy lifting options. I'm not sure. I mean, I agree that it would be consistent, just whether or not that one person, theoretically, it would probably be Mike if he could take on that workload and level of being able to attend all those meetings.
Well, getting back to work at some point is going to create an issue for my time. I mean, and again, I mean, my only other thought is that if there was a school committee member who was on just the town committee, I mean, I think there are a lot of different issues that the town needs to discuss rather than the schools, number one. And number two, I think that certainly a town committee member could certainly be kept abreast of what's going on the school committee, or excuse me, on the school subcommittee. So whatever way you guys want it. But again, my thought of getting on to the town committee was to give more school committee members an opportunity to take part in this process.
Right. I mean, it would be three of us involved in this very important subject.
Right.
But I mean, being on the starting school task force, that's going to be a heavy lift too.
Yeah. So what's the thought that I mean, I think that we need to have a representative on the town side.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, if you guys think it should be the same two people on both committees, I mean, I'm fine with that. I mean, I could certainly, because I know Mike Long, you wanted to be involved in that as well. And I could continue to be a very small part of the the Allies Not Bystanders group that I've been for, I think, 17 years, and I'd be more than happy to concentrate on that if that would give 2 other school committee people who want to be on both the opportunity. Again, I was just trying to come up with a way to expand the number of school committee people involved. So either way, fine with me. But I would be happy, just to continue my role on the Allies Not Bystanders group. If Mike, you wanted to step into those 2 committees. Your call.
Well, to me, when this came up, I actually thought that it made sense to have 2 different school committee members, to segregate these 2 out and have different school committee members on each committee. The town is going to be focused on a wider example of what we need to look at, whereas the school is going to be very school specific. I think there's a lot of heavy lifting on this across the board. My only concern with having 3 people is obviously, if we ever have a quorum attending these meetings, so we have to make sure that from that perspective, we never have, 3 or even 4 of us together, as one larger meeting. I think we can get around that pretty easily. That's my only concern. I'd actually emailed Peter the other day. To me, it almost makes sense to have 2 of us on each one, if we can have 2 people on the town side, just because the school is a very big part of the town. We have the most employees. We probably touch 70% of the households in the town, just based on the number of students we have, as well as all the rec and some of the other groups within town. So I think at the very least, it makes sense to have one of us and have it separate from the specific school DEI committee as part of the process.
When I brought up with Jim Boudreau early on that the school committee would like to have at least one representative on the town committee, he was very enthusiastic and thought we should have 2. So,
well, the more that are involved, I think the better. If we have 4 members of this committee that are all interested in getting involved, I think that we can come to some sort of conclusion. I'm okay having 2 on each, and I do agree that ideally want to have some consistency, but perhaps what we can do is, as these committees meet, that we have regular updates back to our committee under our subcommittee updates on our agenda, just so that we are aware of any potential, maybe disconnect or whatnot. Again, I'm all for having 4 out of the 5 of us involved in this very important matter, and representing that way. So if we have 4 folks, I would think maybe the 2 mics could be on the town side, and maybe Nicole, or I'm sorry, I'm volunteering Janice only because of what she had mentioned previously, but perhaps that interest isn't there with her interest in the school reopening task force.
No, I'm interested in both. I just, I want to be able to give 100%, but I think, if 2's on the town, 2's in the school, I'll be happy to be on either one of those.
Okay.
I think it makes sense also, Peter, if we vote this, what we should probably do if we have 2 people on each committee to have a lead.
Yes.
So that if both committees do need to get together, that lead is responsible for attending that meeting, just so we don't have a quorum.
Yes.
Yep. And again, I would still offer, if the 4 other members of the school committee want to be involved in, if we have 2 people on each committee, I would still offer just to continue my role on Allies Not Bystanders. If the interest is there for Peter, Nicole, and Mike and Janice each to be on that either town or school committee. So just make that as an offer.
Mike, I'm not sure of your role with the Allies Not Bystanders.
I take part in meetings,
Okay.
take part in group discussions as to yearly goals, that type of stuff.
But they're now going to have a voice on this committee. So
Yeah.
perhaps.
Yeah, again, I'm just offering if
Okay.
that way.
Well, I want to involve you however you want to be involved.
Yeah. Like I said, I'd be happy to be on the town committee.
Okay. All right, this is something that we do need to vote on. So I guess what we could first do is have a motion motion to nominate or to elect two to the town DEI.
Peter, before we do, Stephanie Burke had made a comment that was actually something I was trying to look for Evan's name when she posted it. I don't know if it makes sense either on the school committee or to try to have it on the town, but it might also make sense to have alumni, if we have any that want to be involved, also be involved, just to make sure that, that group is also given the option, whether they've been in the school for the past couple of years, just because of their experience with being inside the schools.
Yeah, absolutely. Jen, do you have alumni as part of this group?
We hadn't said specifically alumni, but I think it's a great idea. So I'll add that.
Yep.
Okay. All right, great. Thanks, Mike. And thank you, Stephanie, for mentioning that. So I guess just need a motion to elect or nominate up to 2 members to the school diversity, equity, and inclusion subcommittee.
So which 2? I mean, Mike.
Well, Nicole's already on it, right?
Right.
Yep.
And then I can move over to the town side, so.
Okay. And Mike Long, do you have a preference?
I do not. Do you?
No.
So in that case, I nominate Nicole Brandolini and Janice Lindblom for the school DEI committee with which one of you wants to be the lead on it?
I'm sorry?
Nicole does. I think Nicole does.
With Nicole Brandolini as the lead on that committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Mike Long, second by Mike Hayes. Gates, yes. Brandolini.
Yes.
Lindblom.
Yes.
Hayes.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
All right. Congratulations, Nicole and Janice. Jen, please update your records to reflect that Nicole and Janice are your school committee representatives.
Done.
And I need a motion to elect or to nominate 2 members, up to 2 members, to the town diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think technically you're liaisons. I think that's technically the role.
Well, I'll make a motion to appoint myself and Mike Long to that town committee.
I second. I second.
Motion by Hayes, second by Lindblom. Roll call vote. Gates, yes. Brandolini?
Yes.
Lindblom?
Yes.
Long?
Yes.
Hayes?
Yes.
All right, congratulations. Bill, we'll coordinate the communication of those 2 reps to that committee. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Too, Peter, that I started doing a little digging on, school committee side and how these subcommittees come to be and things like that. And spoke to a few school committee members in different towns. And it's kind of like what happens when you ask a question is that now there are some towns that are going to be looking to us for what we do. So it's kind of exciting that we could potentially have a really cool model for other towns to use in this area. So that was kind of interesting. It was a little bit scary that there wasn't a lot of feedback on things that have been done well for certain towns in people's opinions. So, but it also was somewhat comforting to know that there's a lot of area to cover ahead of us. So we're just going to get through it all.
And with that being said, and Jen, towards you, it would be my opinion that the school district, Scituate Public Schools, is looking to pass this anti-racism resolution.
Yeah.
We are aware that other towns in the area across the state have approved kind of the boilerplate one.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking for feedback on what we can deliver and obtain. And what we'd like to do is put a mission statement that we can utilize to complete or adopt our anti-racism resolution by the first of the school year. I think that would be my kind of give to you. I do know that this is a hot topic now.
Yes.
And I believe I'm speaking for the entire committee. This is really important to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And we just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing, and that's why we're delaying it a little bit before we complete this adoption.
So I'm understanding that and listening to the previous conversations, I reached out to Paige Tobin, our attorney for, special education, civil rights, and she is willing to come on board as part of our district-based DEI team to help us guide that language and help us really draw up a solid, inclusive statement that really addresses what we want to without getting us into a place that we don't want to be, if that makes any sense.
Great. Excellent. And does she or you have a copy of that kind of boilerplate resolution that's been going around?
I sent it to her, yes,
perfect.
and because I have it also, yes.
All right, excellent, thank you.
And I think, Jen, that, for lack of a better word, that facilitator that's going to be part of the school DEI team is going to be invaluable in leading that group. I know when we started Allies Not Bystanders, we 20 kids, Judy Hickey and myself, had a 6-hour a day for a week workshop with ADL. That was just amazing, and really got that group off on a terrific start. So I think we're fortunate that we have someone with those credentials on it.
I agree. She's extremely resourceful and a really important part of all of the DEI work we try to do in Scituate.
Right. All right. Great, thanks. Sorry we spent so much time on that, but obviously this is an important topic. We want to make sure we get it right with the opportunities that we're really creating for our district. So thanks to Nicole for getting that going, and thanks to all 4 of you who will have an important role in all of this. I think that if we weren't in the midst of a pandemic, this would obviously be all that's being talked about. So it's that important.
Mr. Gates, may I just chime in briefly?
Yes.
Thank you. I want to just thank, Ms. Arnold for kind of spearheading this committee and doing the legwork on establishing the membership. And, I also want to thank the school committee. It's like Ms. Brandolini said, I don't know many school committees that are this actively involved in the amount of subcommittees you take part in. And I think that's a credit to all of you because you're being asked, because people value your input on this. So I want to thank you for that. I know it's a lot of hours above and beyond the already a lot of hours you're doing this. So I think that's a credit to you, and I appreciate that. And finally, I want to just kind of piggyback on what you said about the importance of this issue. I want to know people to know out there that, if the safe and return of the pandemic wasn't consuming all the oxygen right now, that this is a top priority and is being worked on. So I wanted the community to know that very clearly, that we are doing and we're taking this as seriously as the reopening. And it's the second pillar of our focus this year. So I did want the community to know that these committees will be starting their work and action steps, and we're looking forward to reporting out on their progress. But I do want people to know that it's just because it's not on the front burner as far as conversations right now, the work is being done, and it is a high priority, of the highest priorities for us.
And if I could say one final thing, I'm sorry. We have not set any meeting dates for this. The first reason is that we wanted to bring this suggested group of roles and people to fulfill this task, this committee, but also because we wanted to wait for the town to meet, because we felt like it was important to hear what they're doing before, as the umbrella, the larger group, before we start our work. So we're anxious for that to get underway, and that will help determine our next step for our meetings.
Right. I know there's no first meeting for the town group yet either, so
Not yet. Okay.
that's kind of in its infancy.
Yes.
Mike, you're in the dark.
I know. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I should have turned the light on before I sat down, but
You know, I understand you.
people tell me I look better in the dark.
Jen, I understand we want to, you want to wait until what the town is saying, but I mean, part of me kind of feels like, we don't really need to wait for them. I mean, there's a lot of people that really want to be heard. They've been waiting for this.
Right.
Yeah, the town is probably 2 steps behind us. They don't even have their member committee established yet. They're still trying to figure out who's going to be a part of it. So I agree that they're probably going to be a little bit behind us. And I personally have, the first day of school, I would like have some sort of resolution policy in place.
Okay. Yeah. So I definitely can work on that. It's different from the guidance I originally thought about. But so then, after hearing that, what do you all think about this representative group that I've recommended to you? I clarified that Nicole and Janice will be the school committee reps. I added allies, not bystanders, which will be Julie Hickey. I'll reach out to her. But other than that, most of these roles are generic, and I'm just wondering how you feel about these roles. And then I can move forward to the next step.
No, I think it's great. As long as it doesn't conflict with the Safe, Strong, Reopen meeting.
Right. Janice, you and I know that's going to be on your front your front to-do list. So I can always, if you can't make a meeting or two, I'll just call you. I'll connect with you, and when that other thing settles down, hopefully.
I know, the reopening task force will, hopefully have everything's in place and.
Yeah. But I get Peter's point about, and your point was, we should just go to work on it. And Jen, you're probably going to have to do 2 things.
No, I think, Jen, obviously you have a good handle on this. I think, there's a lot of work to be done. I don't expect it all to be solved by the beginning of school, but I think probably a mission statement is important, and that's probably realistic that at least this group can come together and say this.
Whoops. I can't hear you, Peter.
Oh, Peter, we can't hear you.
It's not good if you can't hear the chair.
Yeah. Uh-oh. So I guess, I
think I'm getting the same message Pete's been getting, that the connection's
unstable.
Often get back on at one point, so.
So I guess as soon as you can figure out who's going to be on the task force and, in that DEI.
Okay.
Get a meeting going.
We did get a question. I don't know if Peter wants to take the question, but it's a community question about filling those roles.
Yeah. Do you have people in mind, Jen, already?
Well, I believe we asked the principals to look to their own faculty and their own communities. And so they have names to pass to me they reached out themselves, or people in their community, students, teachers, and parents reached out to them. So I do have names from each of the schools. Yes.
I actually have a parent that reached out to me too that I haven't had a chance to reply to, but I didn't have, my reply would have been, I don't have any info yet. So I was waiting until after tonight, but.
Yeah.
And you'll be reaching out to those at the community groups.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I will.
Okay.
So while we wait for Peter, if I might add that that's, a good idea, I think, Janice. I think that Ms. Lindblom, excuse me, so to coordinate with the town, however, we certainly are an independent group in that we need to act, quickly getting this underway. So we'll get right on that and get the committee together and get our first meeting up and running.
Okay. So, Mike, I guess you're taking over.
Yeah, I didn't see Peter yet. So moving on in the agenda then, the next item is the appointment of Director of Business and Finance. Back to Assistant Superintendent Arnold.
Thank you, Mr. Long. So I just want to give you an update about the search committee for the Director of Business and Finance. It was quite a committee, diverse perspectives, really worked well together, a lot of thoughtful conversations. And I received a lot of emails from members on the committee who hadn't done anything like this before and said what a great experience it was for them. So I'm glad people found it useful. So I'd like to thank first Nicole Brandolini, our school committee member who was on the search committee, Erica Brady, our lead bus driver, Brenda Burke, our out-of-district coordinator, Cindy Seesaw, accounts payable assistant, Andrea Cochran, who is the administrative assistant to the director of business and finance, Michelle Crawford, Metco program director, Bob Dillon, assistant facilities manager, Heather Dillon, treasurer of the Scituate Education Foundation, Bonnie Donahue, director of human resources, Peter Gates, school committee chair, Nancy Holt. Oh, hi, Peter.
Hello.
Nancy Holt, town accountant, Josephine Hanley. She's a parent of a Cushing school student and a Gates middle school student. Lisa McGuire, high school principal. Patrick Newton, department chair for 6 through 12 science, technology, and engineering. And David Stevens, food services director. So at the first meeting, much like the director of special education search, we met initially and we discussed meeting norms. We developed interview questions together. I had given them some questions and then asked them to provide some more, think of some more. And then I had also provided a document that I asked them to look at I provided all of the applications of the candidates, asked the committee members to look at those applications before we met. And then when we met, we determined which of those applicants we would interview. So it came down to 5. And we interviewed 5 those occurred on July 2nd and 3rd. On July 3rd, the committee chose 3 finalists and submitted those names to Superintendent Burkhead. But on July 7th, we conducted the public virtual site sessions with 2 finalists, Dr. Robert Dutch and Miss Christine Sacco. But unfortunately, the 3rd finalist had withdrawn his application before the meet and greet. So that's what we did as a search committee, and I was most appreciative for all the people who invested all of that time and energy.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Arnold. And I was a part of that process, and it was tedious, but the committee was designed to do a task, and that's what we did. Mr. Burkhead, could you discuss the final stages of the process and your recommendation?
Yes, I'd first like to thank Ms. Arnold for leading that committee and all the committee members for their volunteer and time and hard work in this. I think the most important thing we do besides keeping our schools safe is hire great people and keep them. That's what makes great schools. And so all the time and effort are very much appreciated. The two finalists that came to me were well vetted and were outstanding. It was an extremely difficult choice. And I just want to go back to the process, if I might, first, because the special ed director and the business director of finance and business are two of our hires we've made as a new team in their central office. But we also want to model that we're inclusive in these decisions. We want to hear a representative group of people's voices in this. And I always have found that the cream rises to the top. And so I thought the process was excellent. I also like how at the end of the process, Ms. Arnold reached out to the groups that were part of the interview process to offer feedback, because I think what we want to model in central office is that we're always looking to get better and improve, that nothing's perfect, and we continue to work on that. So we picked up from the special education director interview process some feedback and tips, and we improved this process. And hopefully we won't have to hire any more central office positions for a while, but in our hiring practices, we'll be well prepared. So that all being said, I took over from there. I interviewed each candidate thoroughly. Part of my practice has always been to read the recommendations thoroughly, but also to contact references that are not on somebody's recommendations list. And I made sure for each candidate to do that. I contacted multiple people that were either former colleagues or employees of these candidates to make sure that I dug as deep as I could. Google searched each individual, spent a lot of hours, because this hire is extremely important, as we all know. We also all know that Paul Donlin is not replaceable, so we're just kind of do our best to get the next person in here. So thank you, Mr. Donlin. But with all that being said, I would like to recommend as our next Director of Business and Finance, Dr. Robert Dutch. Dr. Robert Dutch is the former Superintendent and Business Manager for Upper Cape Cod Regional Technical Vocational School. He spent 17 years there, 2 years as the assistant principal, 6 years as principal, and the last 9 as business manager and superintendent. He's also got a doctorate in education from Northeastern University, among other accolades. And this will be a 1-year recommended appointment. I just think with Dr. Dutch's experience as not only a business manager and some of the great things he did to not only with multi-school committees pass budgets, he was very successful in negotiating contracts, has that experience, and actually earning money as a business director for the school community. I thought those were all very advantageous to our current situation. And lastly, his experience as a superintendent. As a first-year superintendent, having a built-in business manager and experienced superintendent when making all these difficult decisions, I think will be worth its weight in gold. So based on the screening committee and interview committee's recommendations to me, my final recommendation would be for Dr. Dutch.
Okay, thank you. Are there any comments or questions? The way that this is going to proceed is similar to the special ed director, just kind of at the end of our meeting rather than the beginning. If there's no questions here, I would entertain a motion as stated in the backup. We would then adjourn to executive session to review the contract itself. We would then come back to public meeting and vote the contract as discussed, and that process would be complete. Are there any questions about the search process and or anything other relative right now before we go into executive session?
I don't have any questions. Yeah, I mean, we sounds like we had some good candidates. And I think having the built-in superintendent to help Bill is very important.
Any other questions, comments?
Not about that, Pete, but we have a pretty big audience still on. I know we have another section for comments. Do we have a different Zoom link we can use to go into instead of making everybody hang up and then call back in 15 or 20 minutes?
I don't have one set up.
No.
However, I mean, I know it's kind of a pain, but I don't have another one set up, and my other computer just died, which is why I got kicked off. I could quickly set one up, or this worked okay. I think that it's only going to be about, we have what, 33 participants, so about 28. We could expect to come back to public session around 8, call it 8:40. And ask that those folks, we won't start any public comments or any public business until then. Is that okay? I don't have, I mean, you, if you're Zoom savvy, you could set one up right now and you could send us that info, but I don't have it, unfortunately.
No, and I don't have a Zoom thing that I can use. It was more just a, for ease of use for everybody else. And if we don't, then we don't.
Yeah.
It would
No, I
probably take.
apologize. I hope we don't have to do this again in the future, but this is one of the drawbacks. But we'll state, we won't begin public session till 8:40, and if we're still there, then then we'll still be in executive session. But unfortunately, we don't have much business other than to actually vote the contract after that. After this. But that's what I would do.
Mr. Gates,
Yes.
would you vote the appointment first and then go into executive session?
Yeah, we'll need to vote the appointment here and then go into executive session. So the question just came up about we have to come back to public session to vote the contract. So this is at the end of the agenda as far as we can go. So we would just come back to vote. We have to vote the contract in public session. So that's why we're doing it this way. I know it's kind of a hassle, but that's just how we have to do it at this point. We can come up with a better solution if we have another situation we need to adjourn to executive session. But right now, what's on the table is we would make the appointment. We would need a motion and a second and a roll call vote. We would adjourn to executive session and come back to vote the contract. Second by Mr. Long. Roll call vote. Brandolini?
Yes.
Gates, yes. Hayes?
He's not here.
Not here. Did he lose contact like I did? Right. And Limblom?
Yes.
Okay, so now the school committee would like to adjourn into executive session in order to conduct strategy sessions and preparations for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct contract negotiations with non-union personnel, being the Director of Business and Finance via roll call vote. Do I have a motion?
Can I make that motion?
You can just say so moved. I think I read it. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Brandolini. Gates, yes. Brandolini?
Yes.
Limblom?
Yes.
Long?
Yes.
And Hayes is
No.
not here. Okay. So at this point in time, if you are not part of the school committee, if you could please log off and then look to rejoin at 8:40.